case manager, Ms. Wilcox, is here. The father of Kadrian and Kalani, Mr. Clark, is here. The mother, Courtney Nelson, is here. The father and temporary custodian of Biden, Mr. Houseworth, is here. The attorney guardian ad litem for the children, Ms. Miller, is in another court, and Ms. Schrock is substituting for her today. To reference, Ms. Crane is the attorney for Mr. Houseworth, and she's in the hearing as well. Ms. Waller, you can present a summary of what's transpired over the course of the 9 months, or approximately 9 months, and then we'll open it up for questions from Ms. Wilcox and the parties.
All right, thank you, Judge. As of our last hearing in May, mom has completed the parenting education required of her on June 30th. She started the level 1 outpatient rehabilitation, and visitation is occurring 3 times per week. Mr. Clark also completed parenting on June 30th. He's still not legitimated. The mother has not been compliant with drug screens. The last screen we have was from May, which was positive for methamphetamine. She had missed dates on June 29th, July 18th, July 22nd, and August 3rd. Mr. Clark screened recently on August 10th. We're awaiting those results. As for the children, Kadrian has a behavioral aid. Babies can't wait referral was made. And I believe that's all that's transpired since the last hearing. Ms. Wilcox, is everything I said true and accurate to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
When does the department anticipate achieving permanency?
Your Honor, we need the mom to participate in the drug screens. Substance abuse was part of the removal, and we need to see several months of drug screens. We're still at supervised visitation. The department wants 2 months of negative screens before we transition to unsupervised.
Ms. Wilcox, tell me some more detail about how there have been no screens in 3 months since May.
So from my understanding, mom felt like after you ordered the hair screen back in May that she wasn't or didn't have to do another screening until I believe she thought September or when we came back to court. I explained to her that she was supposed to continuously do drug screen because it was in her case plan. She also felt like the laboratory that Specimens, who is the agency we was using, was not accredited. However, I explained to her that it was a contracted provider for the department. So, she was still supposed to be compliant with her drug screen. So on August 4th, we had a FTM meeting and the service provider that's providing the level 1 outcome was there. And the service provider and mom asked, could the department use LaborCorp or Quest? And we're referring to those 2 laboratories for her to have continued screens. Excuse me.
So between May and August, has a drug screener gone to her house or wherever she was located and asked her to give a specimen and she refused to do it?
It's on my court report, the attempts they made. I do believe, let me pull up my court report. So 629, there was a missed visit. They made a note that staff left.
Wait, just a missed visit with the kids or a missed visit when somebody attempted to screen her?
We're talking about the screener. I'm talking about the screen. I'm sorry. Did you ask about visitation? Sir?
No, you said she missed a visit, and I didn't know if you were talking about trying to screen her at a visit with the kids, or whether you were talking about a visit by the screener.
Visit with the screener.
Okay, I'm sorry.
The staff left a note with client family to call.
Okay.
718, there was a scheduled visit. I don't believe that took place. 722, there was also a missed visit. 8/3/2023, there was a missed visit with special notes. She was scheduled to come into the office for testing. She didn't show. Missed attempt.
And when did she tell you that she thought she didn't have to screen again after May?
So that conversation we had via telephone. we've spoken every month, and I've advised her that she was still supposed to have her drug screens every month.
When did she tell you, when this first time she told you that she didn't have to take them after the May screen?
Okay, so first it was the non-accreditation, that was of the laboratory that's used for the drug screens. That was probably in our June visit. We visited in July and we visited this month. So she's felt that way about the laboratory since June. And the conversation about that, I'm going to say that took place in July.
Who supervises the visits?
Agency called, the acronym I believe is DPFIS.
Any problems with the visits by mom?
No, sir.
Okay. How about with Mr. Clark? Is he visiting regularly?
He visit when he can. We have to change his visitation to the weekend now because of his job change.
Okay. Where are Kadrian and Kalani placed?
They're placed with the Henry County foster home of Mr. and Mrs. Valdez.
Okay.
And the acronym of the provider is DPIFS.
Did you give notice to the Valdezes of this hearing? Because there's not proof in the file that you.
Say it again, sir. I'm
So
sorry.
there's not proof in the file that you gave notice to the foster placement for this hearing.
Judge Bartles, I did not know we had court until Friday.
Well,
However, I did speak with the gal, Miss Miller's office to get the kids excused on Friday.
did you take this file over from another caseworker?
Yes, this case was given to me. The original case manager was Miss Parks. She left the department.
When?
I'm gonna say March.
Oh. We scheduled this hearing on November 30th, 2022.
Yes, sir. I am aware now.
Oh. You got the children excused on Friday. Did you tell the Valdezes that they could be at this hearing to tell us anything they needed to tell us or ask?
No, I didn't. I haven't spoken with them.
Okay, well, you have to give every placement notice of every hearing in every dependency case, and you're supposed to provide proof of that in writing and file it with the clerk. And that has been the rule for years. It's in the statute, it's in the code that you have to give notice. They're entitled to notice. And they can complain under the Foster Parents Bill of Rights if you don't give them notice. And that's an unnecessary hassle you shouldn't need or want, to have to fight a complaint to the state. Ms. Waller, you're going to have to notify these people that we had a hearing to which they were not invited or noticed of.
Yes, Your Honor.
An opportunity to ask for a resetting of the hearing. I'm not going to reset it till they say they want to come, but they have to
Yes,
give
Judge.
that opportunity and document that notice with the court.
Okay.
Over half of them don't want to come, but you don't know until you got to notify them. And then if they don't come, no harm, no foul. But when you don't notify them, that's a problem. And we've seen it more and more often. Again, thought we've gotten past that. Somebody started to speak.
Your Honor, yes.
I don't know who's speaking.
Miss Nelson, the mother of the children in the case.
Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to see if I can get a reset or a continuance because I don't have legal representation.
Now, ma'am, you discharged your counsel, correct?
It was a motion put in place for the withdrawal of the case. I did receive the notice of that, but I have not been able to figure out how was I going to get a court representative, what I had to do in order to get.
That was your court-appointed attorney, and you told her you didn't want her anymore, and she filed to withdraw, and you didn't object, and I allowed her to withdraw. So you can represent yourself, or you can go out and hire an attorney. I don't give people another appointed lawyer when they quit the first one. So we're going to go ahead with the hearing, and I would suggest that you get an attorney so that at every future hearing that you can be represented. Okay?
Yeah, sure.
Anybody have any questions for Ms. Wilcox about her report and about the permanency review that we're conducting? Ms. Schrock, I'll start with you.
No, sir.
Ms. Crane,
No, Your Honor.
let me interrupt, giving y'all an opportunity to ask questions, and I'm going to ask another question. How are you arranging for these siblings since they're in two different places? Zidon is with his dad temporarily. How are you arranging for sibling visits?
My client is in contact with the child's grandmother, and he brings the child to visit with the siblings. And Zidon is also going and having his visits with mom there in the home. So he's able to visit with the siblings.
Okay.
Objection.
And that's on a regular basis?
Mr. Houseworth, can you speak as to the schedule that Zidon visits with his siblings?
Yeah, he goes see his siblings every other weekend during school. But when he out of school, he'll go down from Friday to Monday evening at 6 o'clock.
Okay. Ms. Crane, did you have any questions for Ms. Wilcox?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Clark, did you have any questions for Ms. Wilcox?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Nelson, did you have any questions for Ms. Wilcox?
Not necessarily, but I would like to put on record that.
Well, I'll give you a chance to do that in a few minutes. This is the time to question the caseworker. I'll come back to you with what you want to share with me, okay? Same, Mr. Clark, for you. And Mr. Houseworth, I'll come back. Any other questions for Ms. Wilcox? All right. Mr. Clark, was there anything you wanted to tell me about your progress, your visiting, but you've got to legitimate these children? I think I told you before, in Georgia, the father of an illegitimate child has no claim to seek custody or visitation with that child.
Yes, sir. I'm planning on paying for the lawyer to get it started and pay the legitimation fee, and I got the proper housing for the children.
Okay. Well, listen to me. As far as there's no fee to, you'll have to pay the attorney something, but you don't have to pay to file it. If you file it in this case while it's still pending, there is no filing fee. If this case were to get over and you hadn't done it, then you'd have to pay the filing fee in Superior Court's about $200, not counting what you pay the lawyer. And the only time you can file legitimation in juvenile court is when there is already a pending dependency case, which that's what we're in about today. Okay. So please don't, if this case has been pending 9 months, and I need you to go ahead and do that, because I won't be able to rule on it if we're already through with this case. It doesn't look like we're going to be through anytime real soon.
Okay. I will pay the $300 fee for the attorney.
Is that when I told you to pay a deposit before I could appoint you a lawyer?
Yes. It wasn't free. It was $300 and something, and I think it'll be probably like $2 something per kid to get legitimated.
No, you don't have to.
From what I
I
heard.
didn't tell you that. I don't know if I did. Hold on a second. Let me look back.
page before.
Yeah. Based on what you submitted in your financial affidavit, you're not technically indigent where I can give you a free attorney, but I can give you an attorney that you will have to pay, but I want you to pay a deposit. It was $300. It doesn't matter how many kids. You could have had 4 kids. It would be the same fee. You may have talked to a private lawyer who may said that their fee was based on how many kids, and that's between you and him or her. But I just wanted that initial deposit to apply against the fees billed by the appointed lawyer that I appointed you. And I told you in that order that there may be additional fees depending on how long we're in the case and what all else we have to do and what all else, most importantly, that lawyer has to do. Okay?
Okay.
So as soon as you pay the deposit, we will get the ball rolling to get you assigned to an attorney who can handle that. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Did you have any questions or anything you wanted to share with me?
No, sir.
Please be regular with your visits, as regular as you can. The case manager just said she's working with you about your work schedule so you can see them on the weekends. Okay?
Yes, sir. I am.
And you have not, Ms. Wilcox, you said his case plan requires drug screens.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. Be sure to make yourself available for those because that can cause a delay in being able to reunify you with your kids.
I'm always available.
Okay. Well,
I've taken all mine.
okay. She said you took one in August and they don't have the results. Have all the others been negative? That you know?
The one immediately prior, Your Honor, on July 27th was negative. On July 6th, it was positive for alcohol.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad you're working on things, Mr. Clark.
No problem.
Ms. Crane, did your client, Mr. Houseworth, wanted to say anything? Did you want him to say anything?
Unless you want an update as to how Ziden is doing, Your Honor, Ziden is doing well. He's doing well in school. They did attend the mediation, and from what I understand, I did not attend the mediation, but they did attend the mediation. There was a visitation schedule put into place, which allows Ziden time with his mom every other weekend for the full weekend, supervised by the grandmother. We are just waiting on Miss Nelson's negative drug screen so that they can transition to the next phase of that visitation.
Okay. All right, Ms. Nelson, what did you want to share with me?
As far as Ziden and the other children that are in care, they don't have opportunity to visit each other. During the summer breaks, it was a couple of days where the time that he was doing visitations did overlap with our scheduled visitation with the 2 younger children in care. But outside of that, and with school being commenced, they do not get a chance to see each other. And it was that way before school stopped too. Because he comes on the weekend, their visitations are during the week days.
Well, I forgot who spoke up and said that they were getting visits.
That was me, Your Honor. That was me. And I apologize. I forgot that the children were not all in the same place. I know that Ziden goes on the weekends and that there are 5, 6 children that he visits with. So my apologies. I forgot that there were other children placed somewhere else.
Yes, that's incorrect. I only have a total of 7 children, and 3 of them are in custody.
Well, Ms. Wilcox, I need you to make sure that it doesn't have to be as frequent as parent-child visits, but there needs to be a regular schedule for these 3 siblings to see each other, okay? And I can trust you to take care of that. Anything else you wanted to tell me? Thank you for bringing that to my attention, Ms. Nelson.
No, Your Honor, nothing that I can say at this moment.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Clark? Counsel?
No, Your Honor.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Houseworth?
No,
No,
Your
Your
Honor.
Honor.
Anybody have any questions for Ms. Nelson?
No, Your Honor.
No, sir.
Ms. Nelson, I've been doing this longer than you've been alive, I think.
I can
And
believe it.
you're the first person who I put under an order to submit to random drug screens that, number one, argued about whether or not the screener was certified or the lab was certified. And number two, that somehow once you gave one drug screen, you didn't have to give any more. It's ingenious, but it's foolish because you've just delayed the opportunity to reunite with your kids, because the statute says when removal is due to drug abuse, you have to have 12 months of sobriety before I can return your kids. We don't have 12 months of sobriety because you've refused to screen for 3 months. So it's almost like starting over. And that's on you, because a reasonable person would not have assumed that they didn't have to do it. The most logical explanation for your response over the last 3 months is that you were dodging the screens. And that's the assumption that I take. Hopefully that's not true, but
It's not, Your
that's
Honor.
that's the most logical explanation for it, because now you know that you must,
Yes, Your Honor.
if they want to come out 7 days a week and screen you, they're entitled to do it.
I've asked them to do so if that would have helped prove any type of sobriety. My problem was that I know I don't use drugs, so for the results to keep coming back that way didn't make sense. So if I keep getting positive tests on record, I did want the opportunity to go somewhere that was accredited, and that I knew my specimens were being handled according to law, and I was entitled to my results as soon as they came in, instead of always the delay. And I'm the last person to know when the results come back to something they're not supposed to come back as. And that also delays my
Well, I
reunification when I'm
want
having
you
things
and
on record.
everybody in the case to get the results as soon as it's available. We don't have any control over how soon they get the results. It does take a few days, and it can be frustrating to you, and it can be frustrating to me. Like we're here today, and Mr. Clark submitted to a screen earlier this month, and we don't have his results back yet. And here we are ready to talk about it. So part of the issue is that I want them to do is be random with it, where you don't have a lot of time to prepare for it. And when I say you, I'm talking about every parent that I put under a drug screen order. It's not just you.
I
But
understand.
that's the most accurate way to establish sobriety, is that if I told you come into the office every Wednesday and screen, well, if you were still dabbling with drugs, you could plot out when you could use and when you could still test clean. So that's why it's random, and you understand. So just
do
take the
understand.
screens, make yourself available when they call and say, we're coming, be ready, or tell them, you'll be ready.
I've got one call, Your Honor, since May.
Okay.
I got one text message since May.
But you told her you weren't going to do any more, didn't you?
I mean, I told her once she spoke to me, she said the conversation was, I told my attorney after time had persisted, because me and her was keeping in contact. I was like, they're not even doing random screening. No one has even came out since then.
Well,
My attorney and she had cut termination, but right as this month approached, that's when I got a message asking, can I come into the office? At that time, I was in a visitation, and they said they wouldn't only be there to 12. My visitation ends at 1. And I stayed that visitation like towards the end of my children's visitation. And at that time, the time had elapsed, because they said they wouldn't be in the office until after 12. But that's the only text message that I've got, even requesting me to come up there. And it was a text message that had Mrs. Wilcox and the lady from Specimens both in one text string. But that's all I've gotten.
all right. Ms. Wilcox, I don't know who your provider is, but you need to have a chat with them about the urgency of frequent random drug screens for Ms. Nelson, so she can establish that she's not using. Waiting another month for somebody above you to tell you can use Quest or LabCorp or whoever. We can't wait another month. we've got to have drug screens. And if your provider can't do it, you need to, I don't want to have to order you to find to and tell you who to use, because I know y'all contract with these people, but that's got to be straightened out today. Okay.
May I speak, Your Honor?
Go ahead.
So specimens is actually, they come to the office every Thursday from 9 to 12 unless we need them a little bit later. And I do believe Ms. Nelson was aware of that they're in the office on Thursdays.
It's not random, Ms.
I
Wilcox.
understand random, but like the time where, you know, there was a lapse or she said she wasn't contacted, they are in the office on Thursdays. I know it's not random, but I'm just saying they do come every week. And if they don't come, they'll let us know.
Well, I don't have much confidence in that at all, other than the fact if the provider that you've got's not doing their job, and by default, you're making the mother show up on Thursdays when she can arrange, if she's still using, she can arrange to test clean. It doesn't do the job. So if she wants to avail herself of the Thursday, she certainly can do that. But I expect the agency to provide in contract with a facilitator who can do what the law mandates, which is random periodic drug screens. Okay? Well, Ms. Nelson, you've done the other things we needed you to do. And let me ask you this, the level 1 drug treatment that you enrolled in, they don't drug screen you in that program?
I inquired about that to kind of see if even having screenings could go along with the treatment, since that would be the most valuable person
I
to
don't
offer
think level
information.
1 does, but I'm asking, have they said they do not?
I mean, the lady who comes, she said that that's something that she doesn't do.
Okay. Is she doing it over the Zoom? Are you doing it on the internet?
She comes to my home.
Oh, okay. Well, I think the more intensive programs may have a drug screening component to them, but that one may not. But anyway, we're going to be back for review on February the 12th. Zoom at 8 o'clock. We'll send everybody a notice. I'm telling you now when it is, but let me ask before I forget. Ms. Nelson, are you still at one?
No, sir, that's my mother's address.
What address do you receive mail at?
I have to get a change of address for 480.
All right. Had you given that to Ms. Brown? Ms. Brown, had you given that to Ms. Wilcox?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
That's correct, Your
480.
Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Clark? Well, Mr. Clark interestingly gave me that same address last time we were in court. So are y'all living together?
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. But Mr. Clark, I must be slow because I don't think I picked up on that the last time, but you gave me the address that Ms. Nelson had last time, the James Street address. So I can scratch that address off?
As far as correspondence, yes, Your Honor.
How about for you, Mr. Clark? Okay, I got that.
Yeah,
one.
I'm for it.
Thank you. And Mr. Houseworth, we still got you in Riverdale? Okay. All right, good. I'm glad I asked, because then we'll mail these to the right addresses. Okay?
Okay.
Do your case plans. Do your visits. Do your drug screens. Ms. Wilcox?
I'm back, Your Honor. My screen froze on my laptop. I'm on the phone.
Oh, you didn't hear me tell you to write a check.
I just logged back on right when when you was asking Mr. Clark.
Well, Ms. Nelson told us she had told you. Okay,
Yes,
good.
sir. I've been there.
All right. and that Mr. Clark is also there. All right,
Yes,
Ms. Waller, you can take an order that we've reviewed matters and prospect of achieving permanency as far as a definite date is undetermined at this time, but progress is being made. But we do need to hunker down and get these drug screens going.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Thank y'all for your time. We'll mail you a copy of this notice again, February 12th at 8 o'clock. All right.
Thank you, Judge.
We'll conclude the hearing. Thank y'all for your time.
Yeah.